Tell me if this sounds familiar. You catch the scent of a fresh batch of chocolate chip cookies. Maybe you pass by a bakery, your mom's got them cooking in the oven, or you whipped up a batch yourself. Either way, that scent of sugar, butter, and toasted chocolate hits you like a flavor fever dream. Your mouth starts watering as you imagine that first bite into the crispy golden exterior. This is what it's like to experience a craving. Artists experience this every day with what gets them excited to draw. You see the new Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty expansion? Hell yeah, I want to do some Cyberpunk fan art. You see the new One Piece episode where they show Gear 5 Luffy? Fan art. You see Scott Pilgrim be animated for a new Netflix special and you want to make fan art and a comic of your own. Artists are ambitious as hell and anything cool excites you to create. Today we're going to explore the real reason why you're not better at art, and it's got nothing to do with how much you apply yourself. It's how you never finish anything because you're always excited about the next thing you want to do. And then I'm going to help you fix this problem so you can finish your projects and your pieces and bring that work in progress folder down to 0. Let's get into it. In 2018, they unveiled the first gameplay footage of Cyberpunk 2077. You play in an open-world action-adventure RPG as V, a merc with a serious need to prove themselves. The video was 48 minutes long, but its hooks were into me the moment the elevator doors opened and a complete badass took down a couple of gonks. After multiple delays, it would take a full 2 years before Cyberpunk hit the shelves, but my mind was constantly preoccupied with the idea of diving into Night City. A few months before the final release date, my mind was so preoccupied, I started planning my own launch event. I pre-ordered the game, I ordered a couple shirts, and I even started shopping around for a new computer, even if I didn't have the money to cover it. I was this close to financing a new Alienware computer. I even had all the paperwork filled out and was approved when I got wind of a serious problem. Cyberpunk 2077 was an unfinished and broken mess of a game. And here I was ready to spend hard-earned money that I didn't completely have because I thought Cyberpunk was going to be this new holy grail of games. Excitement turned to craving and compulsion to the point where I was completely off the rails. I was lucky that the game was a buggy mess. It helped me avoid a terrible mistake. Needless to say, I did eventually get a great job, saved up money, bought and built a new computer, and finally played through the new and improved Cyberpunk 2077, and it was pretty Nova, but not the life-changing, mind-bending experience that I expected. But that's not what I want you to get out of this story. What I want you to see is how destructive you can be to your own values and goals when your craving runs wild. I'm what you might call a perpetual sketcher. I've improved at sketching so much because I never move on to the next step. The final line work, the clean lines, the perfect rendering. My whip folder has been packed to the brim with unfinished sketches, paintings, even entire projects. That is, until recently. In order to learn more about anatomy, I made a project around the manga Bleach. I've always admired Kubo's artwork, from his character designs to even the way he designs the chapter covers. And beyond that, I love the world of Bleach that he's created. There's so many rich characters. I feel compelled to draw the spiky hair of Ichigo or the cat-like eyes of Grimjaw Jaggerjack. I can bring them to life with my own stories through fan art and share them with you so we can enjoy these characters even more. My goal out of this project was to find a way to sincerely improve at anatomy, all while enjoying the project through the lens of Bleach, a series that I love. At first, I was incredibly excited, like my enthusiasm to jump into Night City in Cyberpunk. I outlined an entire art book full of potential ideas for each page, rounding out to about 50 pages total. I told you, artists are ambitious. When I was younger, I used to get these cinnamon chip muffins from the grocery store every time we went, and I always wanted to get like 4 or 5 of them. My mom would always tell me, your eyes are bigger than your stomach. It was her polite way of saying you're gonna get sick of these muffins before you even get to the third one. And she was right. Moms tend to have that superpower. You're always gonna have the urge to want to do more because you're excited. Or in the case with the muffins, eat more. The craving puts you over the edge into this destructive territory. I was never gonna get to 50 pages for my first ever project, but I was too excited to back down. down. I started strong enough. I've already done more personal pieces this year than I ever have. That's a significant accomplishment, and I pat myself on the back for it. But I realized as my excitement for this project started to wane, I revealed a big weakness that I didn't know I had. Your brain is a complex mechanism, and for some reason it is always tripping you up. What was once a means of survival now has you downing a box of cookies in one sitting, or spending your life savings on a new computer. When I started this bleach project, two very important things were happening inside my brain. One, I started to get curious about a new original project. That curiosity released dopamine, and I got very excited. I dove headfirst into this project and outlined every page and idea that I had. Two, and unbeknownst to the excited part of me when I started this project, my brain started developing a tolerance toward it. See, your brain doesn't just get you excited about new ideas. It also builds tolerance to new stimulus so that you don't get overwhelmed. So you conserve energy instead of being a crazy, excitable, happy person all day. How kind of our brain to not turn us into the Joker. But there is a downside to not being the clown prince of crime, and it's not being beaten up by Batman. As you get into your project and your tolerance starts to build, your interest in that project starts to plummet. And when every new exciting thing is happening right around the corner, the next big game or TV show, your dopamine is releasing for all these new exciting things that are happening. Now you're stuck with a project or piece that you don't feel like doing because you're excited about this next new thing. Your body is essentially on this IV drip of chemicals that are getting you excited about something new instead of your true goal, which is to finish the project that you started. If you play them, you know how enticing a new video game can be until you buy it and play it. A couple hours in, when you're familiar with what you can do, you start building a tolerance for it, and you get more excited about the next game that's coming instead of the one that you're currently playing, that you were just excited about a second ago. And then you never end up finishing the game that you were originally excited for. You're only focusing on the next big high of the next release. It's like a never-ending train of disappointment. You never finish anything, not the game that you were excited about and not the project you put so much effort into creating. This behavior is why I became a perpetual sketcher. Not only did I never finish anything, it's also why I can't get any better. I never even gave myself the chance. And if you've made it this far in the video, I'm guessing you've done the same thing. Well, be sure to like and subscribe now, because it's time to show you your way out of this. To understand how we can put a stop to that perpetual whip machine, let's run it back to those chocolate chip cookies. When I started imagining craving a cookie as that sugary smell hits you from the heat of the oven, it made me think of habits. After all, a craving for something like a cookie over time could become a habit. Become accustomed to the trigger of smelling baked sugar and chocolate, a seemingly innocent behavior that turns into something more sinister. Replace those chocolate chip cookies with something more unsavory, and you might find yourself describing addiction. Enter Gabor Mate, a renowned addiction expert that focuses on healing with compassion and mindfulness. I very much doubt that artists have an addiction to creating whips, but like I said with the cookies, a simple urge repeated over time can become a habit. In some cases, those habits can be destructive. A constant need to jump from one project to the other is the artist's version of a destructive habit, one that I believe we would all be grateful to course correct. And so I explored Dr. Gabor Mate's book on addiction called In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts to extrapolate a use case for you so you can get back on the path of your goals, and I can get back on the path of mine. With a little kindness towards yourself and awareness, you can change not only the strength of your impulsive habits, but the way in which they start, the urgings or cravings. He outlines a 4-step self-treatment method developed at the UCLA School of Medicine for the treatment of OCD. Step 1, relabel. Label the urge for exactly what it is, not what you assume it to be. For example, you may feel like you need to move on to the next piece instead of staying with the one that you have, or you need to move on to the next new game before you finish the one that you have. But there is no urgency. That feeling of urgency is manufactured. You're trying to bring awareness to the urge you're having rather than trying to suppress it or give into it. That will only give it strength. Step 2, reattribute. Place the blame on your brain. Wilder Pennell, a Canadian neurosurgeon, said, although the content of consciousness depends in large measure on neuronal activity, awareness itself does not. To me, it seems more and more reasonable to suggest that the mind may be a distinct and divergent essence from the brain. In essence, your brain is not you, and it's sending you a false message. It's something that was programmed into you when you were younger. Rather than blaming yourself for that, you are kindly and calmly assessing why you're feeling what you're feeling. Why does this feeling have such a deep hold over you? The urge to change pieces or go to your new game is not a flaw or a weakness. It was circumstances beyond your control, but you can take responsibility now. If you change how you respond to the urge to dive into another work in progress, you'll eventually weaken that urge. You'll no longer be controlled on autopilot. You'll be making decisions for yourself in the driver's seat. Step 3, refocus. Buy yourself time to let the craving subside. Remember how we said that the brain builds tolerance for new stimulus? It applies to cravings too. The cravings will pass. So many games and shows come out every year and they feel irresistible because you're constantly bombarded by ads. Your dopamine is just firing off left and right for all these new experiences. Every new ad is a new craving, but you can hold out. I'm sure there are plenty of things that you've been excited for that you've let pass. A new game that you didn't decide to buy because you didn't have the money, or a new show that you didn't watch on release day because you didn't have the time. That craving subsides eventually until you can control when you actually want to buy into it, when you want to experience those things, when you want to move on to a new piece. You might give in sometimes, but no matter how long you hold out, that's an achievement. Even if you fail, you can improve a little bit each time. Step 4, revalue. This is a time to reflect, to remember the impact of your urge. I had to remind myself the reason why I went to all the trouble to make this fan art project. Write it out if you need to. Moving on to the next exciting thing means another work in progress, another unfinished project, and more unrealized potential. You're here to finish your projects, to finish your pieces, and improve your art. Step 5, recreate. This is Gabor Mate's personal final step. To choose a different life. Choose the things you value with conscious awareness. Ask yourself, what were the real needs you had that this craving was supposedly supposed to satisfy? Every time I got a new idea that I wanted to pursue and I wanted to move off of the bleach project, I could remind myself that there's no rush. This project will help me improve, and so will the next one. But I won't get anywhere if I leave everything half-baked. I have to put 100% into each one until it's done, and you can too. I'm happy to say I'm continuing my bleach project. Now I have all the tools to bring it to a spectacular finish, I hope. I hope this episode can do the same for you when you're tempted to drop another file into the work in progress folder. Together we can finish a whole bunch of art and improve one step at a time. Let me know in the comments if you have any trouble with impulse control and things like urges, whether it be working on projects or being mean to yourself when you draw a terrible sketch. We can give each other support. That's what our community is there for. That's all for today's episode. Thank you very much to Wacom for sponsoring this video. They've been incredibly supportive about this healthy creative process that we've been building here to support everyone for a lifelong career in the arts. And with that, have a happy and healthy creative process.